Hey everyone, hope your day is going well. We are back with another reaction. We're gonna clean up our pronunciation today because some words get mispronounced so much. Of course, this is in the English language, and some of you might know that English isn't my native language. But I'm curious to find out what words in English are really, mispronounced. What words do people have troubles with, problems with? Here in Belgium, we speak Flemish or Dutch, it's the same language, and we have our own words that, get messed up a lot. And I know in English, like ask, ax, they did a whole Everybody Loves Raymond episode about that. Simimum, that's a tough one. That's just a simimum, man. That's tough. I do like a Cinnabon, though. Ooh. Oh. Too many calories, though.
But still sometimes pronounce things wrong, and I bet you do too. I'm not talking about speaking too fast or jumbling letters and saying belly jeans instead of jelly beans. That's a spoonerism, by the way. I'm talking about good, old-fashioned mispronunciations, things you didn't know you were saying wrong. I don't need a Segu, so let's jump right in.
Wait. Segue?
Segu?
That's a weird spelling, though.
Segue? Yeah. Really, that's how you pronounce those letters? We're in for a ride. I'm Dr. Erica Brzozowski, and this is Other Words.
Oh yeah, that segue, that's a different type of segue. What that the man who really the CEO or the inventor of it. Yeah, if you don't know about his story, look it up.
Other Words. If you read a word before you hear it aloud, you might determine the pronunciation in your head. Facade, colonel, epitome, Ari, or omniscience. Only later to find out
omniscience. I kind of like that too. Yes, with reading books and stuff, I read a lot of books, and then there's character names, and if you read a lot of fantasy, and then you have this pronunciation in your mind, and you meet another fan, and he's totally pronouncing it differently, or then you listen to the audiobooks, and they read it out differently, or even they might even be wrong, because some don't even consult the author, which is crazy.
Or omniscience. Only later to find out it's actually facade, kernel, epitome, awry, and omniscience. I sincerely thought that this word was chouse until I was corrected while reading aloud in class. How was I supposed to know it was a Greek spelling? That's
Chouse.
Pure chaos if you ask me. Just in English, Q-U-E is kya as in Q, Q as in barbecue, and qua as in Quebec or Queen. And it's also que or que if you're asking what in Spanish or French. And every time I see the letters Q-U-A-Y, I have to remind myself that it's key, not que. Sometimes the pronunciation of a word gets bent to sound like another word with a related meaning. Someone who's mischievous might also be devious, so it warps into mischievous. Espresso can make you go fast, so it gets contaminated with express, hence espresso.
A lot of people say
This
espresso.
word is traditionally pronounced door, as in endure.
In Belgium, people still call it espresso. A lot of people do. I've thought that for pretty much my entire life. Espresso.
But since it kind of means sour, it's slowly becoming dour. According to a 1996 American Heritage Dictionary survey, 2/3 of people preferred the traditional pronunciation. But in 2011, it was evenly split. More than a decade later, where do we all stand on the pronunciation? Another big part of speaking.
Yeah, that was with time and new generations, people forget. We had the whole spelling change here in the late 90s. Kids today, they don't know. So language keeps evolving. Look at a text from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, especially, Dutch is changed dramatically. English, forget about it. We checked out a video about English. You can't recognize it anymore.
Speaking and hearing a word is tone. In English, you can say no or no. But they're still the same word, just with a different attitude. However, in tonal languages like Vietnamese, Maasai, Cherokee, and Navajo, a change in tone is a complete change in word meaning. In Yoruba, for example, when you say this word, depending on tone, you could be talking about a coconut, agbon, a basket, agbon, a wasp, agbon, or your chin, agbon. And you
Wow, I had no idea it was that many for just one, one word that is almost written the same way. Just, you put different intonation and different tone on it. I knew that existed, but that many though. Yo, that's just an entire different way of communicating using your voice, basically.
Probably want to know if someone is talking about a casual basket of coconuts or the much more stressful wasp on your chin. In Mandarin, if you walk into a restaurant and say 我要睡觉, you're saying I want to sleep, but you probably meant 我要水饺, I want dumplings. I've done that.
That's difficult.
Also, I often say I'm looking for my 眼睛 when I mean that I'm looking for my 眼镜. Personally, I'm definitely more likely to lose my glasses than my eyes, though where are my eyes? Kind of works as an expression for I can't find anything. In tonal languages, using the wrong tone is a mispronunciation, so watch your tone. But don't hyper-focus too much, because that can lead to another mistake. Hypercorrection is when you make a mistake because you're trying too hard to be correct. Have you heard of the ferocious jaguar? You can find them in the American South due to a hypercorrection based on the Southern accent. In some regions, words like fire and wire might be pronounced fire and wire, so jaguar, which naturally has the R, gets hypercorrected to ire, hence jaguar. You might be asking, why is this a common enough word that it gets regularly hypercorrected in the American South, where jaguars don't actually live? But it's thanks to the football team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the professional broadcasters trying to cover the regional accents. Hypercorrection especially hits words that we think of as elevated, like scientific or historical terms. That's how silicon became silicon, even though you'd never say falcon or bacon.
Give me some bacon, man. Give me some pecans with my bacon. Hey, that's interesting, that overcorrection, that hyper overcorrection. I don't know if this is even a true story, but you know how people pronounce in Spanish, the S has like a different sound to it, like Barcelona, you know, really, I can't even do it. I don't know if this is the true story. This is probably fake, but because a certain leader couldn't really say the S, people started saying it that way because they didn't want to really like correct him and they were scared of him. And now, you know, the whole language just basically changed because of that. Is that a true story? Did I invent it? Did I don't know. It would be cool though if it's true. They were just too scared to correct him. You know, let's just change the language, how we talk.
Or bacon. And the Knights Templar became Templar, which Tom Hanks' character in the Da Vinci Code definitely should have known.
The Knights Templar. These Knights Templar. The Knights Templar. The Templars.
But the Templars were
But hypercorrection can also affect more common words like this one. Technically, the T is silent, as in soften and listen and fasten, but in the last couple decades, people have started pronouncing it often, which is incidentally closer to how it was pronounced before the advent of modern English 400 years ago. In Cockney English, H's are often dropped at the beginning of words, so someone trying to correct for that might add H's where they don't belong, like Eliza Doolittle and My Fair Lady.
In Hertford, Hereford, and Hampshire, Hurricanes hardly ever happen.
Oh, no.
The only
in French,
H she
the
pronounced
H is almost never pronounced either, you know, and in French, are there words? I don't know, like, there's all the H's are like silent, hiver, like winter, Omar, lobster, you know, like, there might be, I'm just not getting any in my mental brain list right now. It's not retrieving any words, so let me know if you know a French word that you really hear the H in it.
is the one she added in front of the H-free word ever. Similarly, it's not uncommon to see hypercorrect R adding in R-less dialects of English like those in Australia, South Africa, or regions like where I'm from, New England. If you grew up hearing this word pronounced wata or wota, and you learn it's spelled with an R, then adding an R to other words you hear that end with the sound isn't a stretch. Pasta becomes poster. In fact, instead of idea, I used to say idea. A similar
in England you hear that too, you know, some accents have that, like if you people talking about President Obama, it's like Obama almost, you know. So yeah, like they don't pronounce the R in the words where there's an R, but then add an R in words that don't have an R. Hardy har har.
Pronunciation situation happens with words borrowed from other languages. Hyperforeignism occurs when you overpronounce something based on what you assume the authentic pronunciation is. For example, the pepper jalapeno is spelled with an enye, the N with the tilde on top. Its spicier cousin, the habanero, is spelled with an N, yet you'll occasionally hear it mispronounced habanero. You'll also commonly hear the capital of China pronounced Beijing with a zh sound instead of with a j sound that is both written in English and pronounced in Mandarin. I used to say zh, but now it's always Beijing. And what about the French borrowing coup de grace, stroke of grace? I only just found out it's not pronounced coup de grace, meaning stroke of fat, which sounds so much more French with a dropped consonant. That's hyperforeignism in action for you. Are there words that you started purposely mispronouncing because it's funny, and now you always say it that way? Think people who say Target and Chipotle when they know full well the official pronunciations are Target and Chipotle.
Target is better. Now, come on, man. Feels a little more upscale. Feels a little bit more like posh, right? Let's go shopping at the Target today. Yeah. We have a few of those too in Belgium, but yeah, it just doesn't translate to English. But we have a lot of those funny. Yeah, it's just fun. And then,
or even better, that viral video of Chef Nigella Lawson pronouncing microwave microwave,
which I've warmed in the microwave.
And I know Vine star Marlon Wood forever altered my pronunciation of watermelon.
Oh no, forget no!
But I got a watermelon instead!
I've heard plenty of stories of kids who pick up the humorous mispronunciations from adults and go out into the world not knowing that only their family says it that way. The words and special pronunciations that your friends or family use are called familects. When I say mispronunciation, that means there's an error. There are often multiple correct ways to pronounce a word based on accent or sociolect. Take, for example, this word or this word.
Caramel.
Do you say caramel or caramel? Pecan or pecan? All are correct. For the nut, fun fact, the closer you live to where the tree natively grows, the more likely you are to say pecan, which we get from the Algonquin language family. Another example is this word. Do you say ask or axe? There's been prejudice against axe by those who consider ask to be the standard, but actually, axe was the original pronunciation. It comes from the Old English axion and can be traced back to the 8th century.
Oh, there you go. There you go. To the language snobs. I'm an author. I respect language. I love language, but I also like to be a little bit light about it and make, fun of it sometimes because, why gotta take everything so serious, man? Oh, yeah, that's fun. Hey, I never knew that, man. I'm learning as we go. It's axe from now on.
We trace back to the 8th century. Chaucer used axe, and so did the first English Bible, in fact. This phenomenon of transposing or switching sounds.
I can't remember seeing that, but I think, nowadays, because I have read the Canterbury Tales, they probably changed the spelling in the later editions.
Word is called metathesis. This is where you'll see things like nuclear and nuclear, or introduce and introduce. The real difference between a pronunciation and a mispronunciation is time. Mispronunciations win out over the centuries if enough people adopt them because they're easier to say, or sound better, or look like they should be pronounced a certain way. In fact, a lot of our correct pronunciations are mispronunciations of our linguistic ancestors' words.
Nice.
We say fish and wasp, they said fisk or fisk and wops. Pronouncing the T in Austin is now so widespread that it's listed in most dictionaries as an alternate pronunciation, and may eventually become the standard way to say it. Now, I don't think chaos will become chouse in my lifetime, but in 200 years, who knows? Language is not set or frozen. According to the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, the only constant in life is change, and that's just what language does. So someone trying to correct for what might add a correct for that. In Cockney English, H's are often, which is incidentally closer to how it was pronounced before the.
There's a dog running around me. Hey, these videos are fun and educational, man. They really have the right balance between them with the animations, the delivery, and the way she has her timing and stuff, and a lot of knowledge. And yeah, man, this is fun, and it's so cool to know about the evolution, or know a little bit about the evolution of certain languages and pronunciations over the years. And that tells you, oh man, life's too short to be getting angry about certain language errors, whether that be typos or grammatical errors. There's worse things, to me at least. What do you think? I'm asking you. Let me know. Peace.